But there's so many different cancers and so many different types of weed. Who knows what's what? We got to research it.
Well, I think what's really supposed to be the most effective, and Gino, you helped my friend when he his mom had an issue with this, and this is something about Gino who'd never advertised himself, but he hooked my friend up with a lot of this cannabis oil, which is really expensive stuff, and you did it just to help his mom, or just to help his dad, rather.
Well, he was a good dude.
And, you know, we were talking about stage 4 cancer at that point, so there wasn't much ever hope that it was going to turn around and cure it. However, to ease the last few months of life was working and happening. There was a lot more quality of life, which for the patient, that was great, number one. The absolute utmost importance, but also for our friend that we're talking about, it was great for him because he got the last few months of life together with his loved one in a better way, not in a comatose setting, which he was dealing with for a while before we got you know, on the Rick Simpson oil regimen. Well,
it definitely needs to be investigated, because there's so many people that have had beneficial effects from it. It just seems insane to not have some large-scale scientific research being done right now. Like, just humanity as a whole, like, we kind of owe it to each other. Like, if you're not thinking about it right now because your loved ones don't have cancer, but if this turns out to be really legit, this could be another reason why we need to reconsider this whole ban on the legal sale federally of marijuana. 'Cause it's ridiculous. If it can do this, if you're really taking this oil and you're reducing tumors, which has been reported in just a shitload of people, including friends of mine. I know people that have had cancer and had their cancer reduced by taking cannabis oil. And I know people whose parents had it and got their tumors reduced because of it.
And autistic kids, like the seizures and stuff like that.
Like our friend whose kid was going from, like, I mean, he was having seizures all day. He takes the stuff, he hasn't had a seizure in 6 months.
Sure. Yeah. You look at Jaden and Charlotte and all these kids. How can you tell the parents no?
Exactly.
No matter what state you're in, how can you tell a parent no? And I think that's when your politics changes, when it affects you personally.
It definitely happens. It definitely happens. And I've seen quite a few stories of that, of people that have children that had, you know, serious seizure issues, and as soon as they got them on the medical marijuana, it just stopped. And we have a lot of really bad prejudices about marijuana. You know, and we need to expose them, like, as a society, because they're holding a lot of people back. I know they held me back. They made me, until I was 30 years old, I thought pot was for idiots.
So
I really did. A lot of people do. And it's important to let them know, not only is it not for idiots, it's a tool. Like, you can use it. It can benefit you. Like, this is not a benign substance. It's slippery. You know, like all other psychoactive substances, if you are on the wrong path mentally, like, you could go off the deep end with it, like everything else, like alcohol or anything else. But
you see someone who I respect a lot, like Graham Hancock, who you had on the show a lot. He was a heavy user, and he got to a point where he said, you know what? My relationship is not good with marijuana anymore. And he took a long break, I think 2 to 3 years. He took a long break and then said, you know what, things have changed in my life now. I think I could go back and have that relationship start again. And from what I understand, mostly from the podcast, from him being on the podcast last time, he is now in a better relationship with marijuana.
Yeah, he was in an abusive relationship with himself, and marijuana was just playing a factor in that.
Sure.
I'm the one who got him high.
Yeah.
I got him high on the show when he was like 2 or 3 years sober. I'm like, dude, you're fine. Just come on.
Yeah, you're the smartest dude ever.
He loved it. And he opened up when I gave it to him. Oh my God, he opened up like a flower. He took one hit and then he relaxed and he was smiling and laughing and we were having a good time. And he went on this rant. Oh my God, this epic rant. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that had to be cannabis inspired, because it was so, like, emotionally connected to him. It was, you know, essentially like sort of validating his life work, because he was really heavily criticized many times, where people just completely ignored any of the potentially positive aspects of what he was saying, and just was trying to shit on all of his theories. But as time has gone on, it's been more and more apparent that he was right the whole time.
About all different things that he
Yeah.
studies.
Yeah. Well, the big one being that civilizations have experienced many different eras, and that what we're looking at when we look back thousands and thousands of years is the most latest of eras. But there was potentially very advanced civilizations that had a different kind of advancement 10,000, 15,000 years, maybe even as many as 30,000 years ago. And that there's evidence of this stuff. There's evidence in the construction of the Old Kingdom in Egypt. There's evidence when they start looking at certain erosion patterns on the Sphinx and
Sure.
the Sphinx compound. Like, they're talking about, like, something that was built 14,000 years ago plus. So all these different new discoveries that they're having, when they're having these new, they find these new things that are like, they found evidence of North Americans in Native Americans in North America at 14,000 years ago, which pushes it way back before they thought it was. Right. They found like woolly mammoth bones with cuts on them and shit super recently. So this stuff keeps happening over and over again, and they keep discovering these structures, and they find things underwater. They find like sunken cities and shit.
Gobekli Tepe in Turkey.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you can't carbon date stone, so
well, that's why Gobekli Tepe is so unique, because they know that it was covered up somewhere around 12,000 years ago.
Purposely.
Yeah, that someone constructed this thing sometime before that. They get a vague idea within 1,000 years of when this thing was built, and it was built when they thought people were hunter-gatherers. So this is all stuff that Hancock had already been saying. So to see him get high and just expand upon that, and you see, like, this is a guy that, like, he's been ridiculed, he's been dragged through the mud. People have taken what he's said out of context and tried to use it against him. They've had these really biased opinions about his work, and they've made little specials about it, just shitting on him. And it turns out he was right about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And he's just gathering evidence and making his thoughts and processes on evidence.
And he's a really good guy. Like, he doesn't deserve any of that. He's not a bad guy. Like, he's a really good guy that's taking a chance, that's exploring this really important subject. This idea that we've been here many times.
I can remember reading Magicians, maybe it was Magicians of the Gods or Fingerprints, his first one, thinking...
I think it's Footprints of the Gods, right? Was it Fingerprints? No, Fingerprints. Fingerprints.
Thinking, thank God there's a dude out there. I didn't know who he was at the time. Thank God there's someone doing this work, because I had never heard of any of this before I read that book.